Almost every evening the music begins. I finish work and come home tired. I usually spend my entire day in a noisy workplace because I teach children. So by the end of the day, I really want some peace and quiet. I want to close the door, sit down, and let my brain rest. But then I hear the music coming from downstairs. The dancing ladies have arrived. They gather outside, sometimes directly beneath people's windows, turn on their speakers and dance for most of the evening. They usually don't continue extremely late, but when I'm already tired and surrounded by noise all day, even a few more hours of music can feel like too much. I don't have a problem with the dancing itself. The problem for me is the volume. The music doesn't stay in the square or courtyard. It travels into the apartments around it. And even if I close the windows, I can still hear the beat. Sometimes it genuinely feels like noise pollution. Apparently, I'm not the only person who feels this way. At one point, online stores even sold special devices that could remotely stop some of the speakers used for square dancing. The fact that such a device exists shows that the noise is a real issue for some people. At the same time, I have to admit that I find these ladies genuinely admirable. I'm looking at them from my perspective as a Russian person, and I see a huge difference between women of the same age here and back home in Russia. Of course, I'm speaking only from my personal experience. There are active and inactive people in every country, and I don't want to generalize too much. But this is what I personally observe. In Russia, women often become less physically active as they grow older. They move less, spend more time at home, and gradually lose some of their mobility. Many of them gain weight, which can make movement even more difficult. By a certain age, some women already seem tired and disconnected from an active social life. Here, I often see something very different. I see women of the same age looking fit, energetic, and enthusiastic about life. They meet their friends, go outside and dance for hours. They don't behave as if life has already finished or as if they are too old to enjoy themselves. When I watch them, they look completely alive. For me, the most striking difference isn't simply how their bodies look. It is how they carry themselves and how actively they participate in life. Perhaps regular dancing is one reason they remain so mobile, or perhaps the women who join these groups are already more active than average. Either way, seeing them makes me think about how I want to live as I grow older. I don't necessarily want their loudspeakers, but I would definitely like to have their energy. I also had an opportunity to experience this energy personally. Several years ago, a friend of mine from France was visiting his parents in Nanjing. He is a music video director, and we decided to make a small video for one of my techno tracks. We went to a park to talk about the idea, and there we found a group of dancing ladies. We hadn't arranged anything beforehand. We simply arrived ready to create something. I brought my musical instruments and my friend brought his camera equipment. When we saw the ladies dancing, I thought it would be amazing if they could take part in the video, so I went over and invited them to join us. It wasn't easy to persuade them at first. Their music, their movements, and their whole atmosphere were completely different from the mood of my techno track. Their dancing had its own character and traditions, and in their minds, those movements simply didn't match my music. Their vibe didn't match my vibe. It took some time to explain the idea and win them over, but eventually they agreed to try it. They were very kind and open with us, and we began filming right there in the park. There had been no advanced negotiation and no carefully prepared location. We found one another by chance, talked about the idea and started creating something together on the spot. We ended up doing 2 filming sessions over the following 2 weeks. The first happened spontaneously on the day we met. For the second, we arranged to return to the same park and work with the same group again. It was such an unusual combination. A Russian musician, a French music video director, a group of local dancing ladies, and a techno track that initially seemed completely incompatible with their style. Somehow, we made it work. That experience changed the way I see these groups. Now, when I see dancing ladies in a park or courtyard, I don't see only the loudspeakers beneath somebody's window. I also remember how friendly, energetic, and willing to try something new those ladies were. We came from completely different backgrounds and had very different ideas about music and movement, but we still managed to create something together. That is why my feelings are so mixed. When I come home exhausted and hear the music below my window, I find it annoying, but when I look outside and see those ladies dancing, laughing, and enjoying themselves, I find it wonderful. I hope that later in life I will still have that much energy, curiosity, and enthusiasm. Over time, square dancing has simply become part of my life here. The music, the movement, and the evening gatherings are now part of the atmosphere I associate with living in China. I have also made a personal decision not to turn it into a constant battle. I'm a guest here, and I don't expect another culture to behave exactly like the culture in which I grew up. Public life here often feels louder, more social, and more expressive than what I'm used to in Russia. People gather outdoors, talk, play music, and use shared spaces together. That is simply part of the rhythm of life here. Of course, accepting it doesn't mean that I suddenly enjoy noise. If I have to choose between loud music and a peaceful evening, I still choose peace and quiet. This is one of the reasons my wife and I never choose an apartment on a lower floor. When we look for a place to live, we prefer to be higher up and further away from the courtyards and public spaces where people gather in the evening. That is our personal compromise. The ladies can dance and we can try not to hear every single beat. But I'm curious about your experience. Do people dance like this where you live? How do you react when music from a public space reaches your home every evening? Do you complain, try to stop it, or simply accept it as a part of neighborhood life? When you look at these dancing ladies, what do you see? Something annoying, something admirable, or like me, a little bit of both? If you like this kind of content, don't forget to give me a thumbs up, subscribe. Welcome to my channel to watch more videos about life in China through a foreigner's perspective.